Thank you so much for joining me on Decoding Attachment Style to share your story. For those who are joining this podcast, this is a segment where I invite persons to share their stories and I coach, advise, and guide them based on what you're hoping to achieve. We have with us Sarah, and that name is used to protect your identity. I know you just said that you really don't care if we use your name, but for the sake of our agreement, we're going to stick with Sarah. What I'd like for you to do for us, Sarah, is to walk me through what brought you here and what you're hoping that this particular session will do for you. What are you hoping the outcome would be?
So thank you very much for having me here today. I think it's great. I think how things happen, they happen for a reason. It was kind of like a pure coincidence. So basically, I had a breakup about 7 going on 8 months ago. And I was never one to heavily dive into the whole fearful avoidant and things like that. But it was funny enough that right before we had kind of split up, we did that assessment. It was one of the fearful avoidant, the attachment style assessments. And we both came up as fearful avoidance. And that was kind of the end of that story. We ended up breaking up. And so I started diving into a lot of the work that I had to do. But as I mentioned to you, he is also my business partner. So it's caused me to have to do much more work than kind of I expected. I found you on there and I found a lot of great things that you have to say. And so in the interim, I've already been doing a lot of my own personal development. And that's kind of how I got here.
All righty. Great. Well, thanks for following my work and supporting it. What are you hoping that the outcome would be from this session?
No real outcome, to be honest. I believe everything is going as it should be. I'm not asking for any different outcome. I hope that I can help others that may be in an area or in a place where they may be feeling desperate. I'm kind of already in that place where from the outside looking in, I've lost all of that desperation. I look at this as a blessing. And again, if I can help anybody else, that's really what I would like to do.
Oh, great.
And of course, getting any feedback from you is also great because I'm a student of life and I'm always learning something new. So I'm here to also learn what things I can continue applying.
Oh, great. Sometimes we start these sessions and I think that it's just a session where you need guidance. But I love it when people have been working on their healing after a breakup and learning what your process is, what worked for you. So this is great. Thank you. All right, so let's get to the relationship itself. When did your relationship start? How long ago? And what was it like in the first 3 months?
So my relationship, first, let me say it was a long distance. It was not too long. I would say it was about 8 months. And it was excellent. It was a really, really great relationship. I walk away with nothing but great things to say about it, to be honest. And the first 3 months were really, really good. So I didn't struggle so much with the distance aspect of it. I would say more on his side, but it was great.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice the red flags?
Nope, not at all. I didn't notice anything at all because he was so willing, so consistent, so giving. There was not one time at all, and I would say not just at 3 months, throughout the whole relationship, that I felt like he wasn't, maybe I was doing a little more than he was. No, it was none of that. We were seeing each other pretty consistently every 5 to 6 weeks, though business travel allowed for it a little bit more, and it was just really good.
Well, I guess everybody's wondering, I know I'm wondering, what caused the end? If it sounds like it was a good relationship, it sounded like there wasn't trouble, so what caused the end?
I think that's what pulled the rug from under me. And really, it was really a big shock to me when it kind of ended. I didn't think it was going to end because I really thought that how he felt about me really outweighed anything else. The distance, I'm so sorry. I apologize.
That's all right. What do we have, a pet?
I have a puppy.
Oh, love puppies.
There's a little construction going on outside, so I apologize about that.
That's all right.
So everything was great. The distance was affecting him more than it was with me, and he kind of wanted to find a solution. One thing that we always agreed on was that he would never move here for me, it would have to be for a job, because then if you put so much of that pressure on us and the relationship, in case it didn't work, then it would again put too much pressure on us. I was always on board with that. And unfortunately, a couple of the jobs that he had applied to, they didn't come through, and he was kind of growing in his own location, and I'm pretty steady where I am right now. So the thought of me going there first, it wasn't even up for debate, and we were pretty clear on that. I have much more responsibility than he does. I have a kid, and I have a home that I own, so it would have been much easier him just kind of coming by himself. And I just believe that he felt it was better to kind of end it then than continue going forward if it wasn't, basically there was a solution in his eyes quick enough. And so we started having some misunderstandings, and he started asking me for space. And I think that was the time where then I was getting confused. I'm like, how much more space can you need? You're in Miami and I'm here. And it wasn't even that wasn't the space that he needed. He needed, basically, I think that's where I'm so sorry. The anxious in me kind of started showing its face, because when he was asking for space, he wasn't asking for that kind of space. He was just like, listen, I am the one that has to break a contract with my apartment because the end of his lease was coming up. So he had bigger decisions to make. He's like, I really want to move forward with us, but I can't go without a job. I don't just want to end my lease. And I don't also, we want to sign another lease for another year here, because that, to me, it feels like we're doomed. So he put on this extra pressure on himself that I didn't, because I was kind of just here. If you were coming, come. The distance didn't bother me, but he put much more on himself. And so it got heavy for him. He also, we met pretty quickly after his divorce. He didn't have much time in between, which is one thing that I know the importance of. I know the importance of doing that time alone in between. And so that was something that kind of fell on me. So I just felt that also, I know he had been unfulfilled, but happy. They ended very well on their own kind of terms. They both felt it was best. But I think that he was so unfulfilled that then he was like, I don't want to be in something unfulfilling, and I don't want to do long distance. That was my biggest, basically that was my deal breaker, and I broke it for you. And when he didn't see kind of like a possible way, it was just easier to basically say, let's kind of end it.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like the rug was pulled right under me, and it was super hard. And then the anxious in me came out. Anxious in me, the desperation, like, wait, what do you mean? Why not? And we started having just small conflicts. We didn't fight much. At all. But when he came to visit in the end of March, it turned into a breakup. It was like a breakup weekend. And it was very, very difficult. And I knew in my heart that that's where it was going. And he was like, I know that you always told me that maybe I should have done time alone. And now I just can't see a way for us to physically be together. And I've fallen so deep into this with you. And I just didn't see a way. This is him kind of saying, and in my eyes, all I saw were possibilities. It's amazing how two people could just be seeing something completely different, because all I saw were possibilities. I'm like, there's so much, we can make this work. But you also can't persuade someone if they're already feeling a specific way. So we did a little bit of the kind of back and forth, and it ended. And where it got super kind of complex is that as we were ending, a business deal was coming through for an Airbnb for myself. And I ended up needing him as a co-signer. We both had a very similar vision with this business, with the Airbnb. He wanted to do one himself. Long story short, the magnitude of the deal, it was a big deal, big house. I actually needed him. And then we both kind of just came together like, listen, it seems that both of us, we kind of need each other for this financially. And and to do it because it seems I won't be able to do it by myself without you. And things aligned perfectly. I mean, I was praying on them like, oh, is this the worst thing that I can do? Because emotionally I was distraught, and everything was aligning perfectly. And it was very hard with the communication, more on my end, because I had just too many emotions. But I think I did that maybe like I'd like to say the last time I was ever really fully emotional and dragged on that conversation on the phone for hours. It was exhausting for me and for him. And I just couldn't end it. I couldn't hang up that phone, and you're like, please hang up the phone. Nothing you could say can make this better. I believe that was like April 3rd. And then I was like, okay, whatever I'm feeling, I'm going to feel on my own. He doesn't need to know about it. And I'm going to put my big girl pants on and we're going to do this because this business deal is very serious for me. And I was the one doing everything, setting the whole foundation. And it's aligned very well on that side. But unfortunately, it took losing the relationship or however it got lost to happen. So this is where I'm at.
All right. So you're still business partners?
Yes. We just launched our Airbnb at the end of June. So we're new. We're new business partners. And yeah, this is kind of where we're at.
Okay. Now I'd like to dissect this relationship with you so we could find perhaps the red flags that we might have missed, because a lot of people get into these relationships and they wonder, where did I go wrong, or what should I have looked for, seen, and I missed it. There are two things that you mentioned. One, it's a long distance relationship. Was it always a long distance relationship? Okay,
Yeah,
it was always a long distance relationship. And the other one is that he was just out of a divorce. How long was that relationship?
His marriage?
Yes.
Was it like between 10 and 14 years?
Okay. Do they have kids together?
No kids.
No kids. All right. The first one is the long distance relationship. A lot of times we get into long distance relationships because maybe unconsciously it is the safest thing for us to do. There's a part of us that isn't really ready for a relationship. There's a part of us that's not emotionally ready for it. And what does that mean? It could look like many things. One, we're not giving a whole lot of our time. The other one is we're hoping that this person could hop on their white horse and come across the oceans to rescue us, right? We want them to prove that we're important. And by having them at a far off distance, we see how much effort they're going to make to see us. So a lot of times we get into a long distance relationship, we're setting ourselves up for failure without realizing it, because we know that long distance relationships are difficult. You don't get to know the person really. You're just talking to each other occasionally. You don't get to see how they interact, how they behave, what are their reactions when they're upset, how they interact with the waiter. Are they kind? Are they generally kind? Who are they with their friends? We don't see all of this. So it's more that our mind falls in love with how we idealize this person. We have a vision of them, we put that onto them, and then we expect them to show up that way. And I would do anything for the relationship, so I expect you to do the same thing, and we overlook all of the difficulties that we might face. Right? And this is where we can't say that love is easy and fun and playful. We learn to say that love is hard, so you have to put in the effort and work. But what we're really doing is setting ourselves up for failure, to make it really, really difficult when it's not really necessary. So what I generally advise people is try not to get into long distance relationship, because that really is your brain saying, let me set you up for failure. Let me help you self-sabotage so that now you could get the confirmation that, oh, nobody ever really fights for me. Nobody ever really wants to be with me, when we're already in an almost impossible situation. Okay, so that was one thing. The other thing, which you mentioned earlier in our conversation that you realize, is that he might have needed some time to work through the ending of a marriage, right? Especially somebody who's got a fearful avoidant or a dismissive avoidant attachment style. when they get into that commitment, remember, it's difficult to commit, right? It's difficult to commit to being a partner. It's difficult to commit to an engagement. It's difficult to commit to being married. And when they make that decision, they expect it to last forever. And so when it doesn't end, for the avoidant attached, they feel shame, guilt, embarrassment, the promise that they made. And you mentioned something. You said that he always said that he would not get into a long distance relationship, and he broke that to be with you. So there's one, the guilt of not honoring himself, I'm hearing there. And there's also the guilt of going back on his word with you, breaking a promise. So avoidant attached persons, they're going to feel that guilt, and they need a lot of time after, especially the length of marriage, 10 to 14 years. Another red flag is you don't know exactly how long they've been married, which is information we want to know. We want to know, why did the marriage fail? Like, what do you think you could have done differently? How do you feel about the ending of it? Ask these questions instead of what most of us do is, poor you, poor thing, you're so hurt. I can fix this, and I could prove that this one would work, right? So another red flag is getting involved with someone shortly after they have gone through a breakup, or we ourselves have gone through a breakup. Okay. Yep. So these are two major red flags. And I've made this mistake. A lot of us make this mistake where we overlook it. Now, absolutely. I want you to share with me, why do you believe those things were overlooked? And what would you do differently? Could you go back into the past?
So on my end, I will say that I was starting to be ready to date. I had given myself almost a 2-year window, but even with that 2-year window, it's quite funny because you do notice that things crept up in myself from my previous relationship. So a lot of times I would say he just got out of something. And even as you're right, I think that I should have asked more questions in the sense of why did it end? Like, we spoke about it. We spoke about it very openly. They both had made that decision. It was something, it rode on longer than it should have. And let's both just start the next phases of our lives. We no longer make each other happy in that sense. But they shared a dog together. So no kids, but very amicable, good relationship. Never talked badly about her. Never talked bad. I looked at those things. I always noticed those things because that could be me that he could be talking about. Never made me feel like there was still something there. Never made me question that. It felt like he was certain. But I think it was also because I was so new. I was that new and shiny toy. It's easy to kind of put that full focus on me. But it did always sit with me. And I brought it up a couple times that the importance of doing the time alone. And the only reason that I was able to really show up the way that I was showing up was because of the 2 years that I had done alone. So I think that is something that kind of sat with me. I think the reason that maybe I overlooked it because it happened so organically. And the way that we met, the way that we hung out. And I think you're right in a sense that it did feel safer for me because I had a lot of, I don't want to say chaos, but I was in the beginning of a renovation, just a lot of things kind of going on in the outside, nothing huge or dramatic, but a renovation. I wasn't living in my house. So I had just moved out of my house. I was out of my house for about 6 months, me and my son. So that type of displacement is hard for me to also commit to something 100%. I could barely commit to my clothes. I didn't know where everything was. Yeah. I'm living out of a suitcase. So everything kind of just felt right. And as I was going into renovation, he was going into his new place of living by himself. We were kind of going through certain things that I'm like, I think this space is perfect. To me, it was perfect. Yeah. It was perfect in the sense we talked every single day, various times a day. It was like two teenagers. We were like two teenagers, the FaceTiming, everything. So You're right on what you said. We gave like the best parts of each other to one another. I got a chance to see him with friends when I visit him, or I got to meet like his people, and I'm always watching certain things. He got to meet my family, my son. I got to take a look at those interactions and how that would be, and everything just kind of seemed to just fit well for what it was. But I do understand that I didn't see him every single day, so it's nice for a person to kind of show up as their best the times that you do see them. It was easy for me to overlook, is what I'm saying, but definitely something that I knew was a deal breaker for me. And I had said it. I'm like, I need somebody that has already done the time and put in the work for themselves, because no matter how something ends, it ends. You have to grieve it. You have to grieve it. And if you don't know why your marriage or relationship fully ended, I say 10 to 14 years. They were married 7, but I just was giving you the whole length of the relationship, which it's like 10 to 14. So you have to know why something ended, because if not, you're not going to be able to work through those things.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of what sat with me. I'm like, if he doesn't know what he did wrong, I'm easily going to fall into this situation where I'm going to be the one at fault and not him, if he doesn't know what he needs to work through, because there's always 2 people that need to work certain things out.
Yes.
So that did definitely, it sat with me. But again, it was easy to overlook because of how organic it happened. And yeah, how easy I thought it would be, the long distance factor. The long distance factor was not the hard part for me at all. The time that it was, I've seen very successful long distance marriages. My parents have one for like 20 something years, and they're the happiest. I'm around good relationships. I'm around successful relationships and unsuccessful relationships. So I got a chance to see a bit of both. Long distance, here, it doesn't matter. So I'm not against it. I wouldn't even be against it again, to be quite honest. But I do see the parts that I overlooked, and that one being especially him not having done time by himself and getting a chance to rediscover who he was. And we had spoken about that. He had known that. But the way that everything was with us, and so organic, so good, so incredible, it was hard to let go. And before you know it, we're in a relationship, and now we're starting something new, nothing that either one of us planned.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to point out the stuff that wasn't always going good, because it's from that, that we learn. One of the things I find with the older generation and long distance or arranged marriages or anything where those people came together, is a lot of respect and acceptance. There's respect and acceptance. The newer generation, I'm talking about me, or even, people in their 50s, it's still, and I can blame social media for doing this, or adding to it, giving us a belief that a relationship has to look a particular way. I need someone who's going to make me happy. And if they don't do what I want them to do, what's going to make me happy, then something's wrong with them. They're flawed. And you would see with, the examples that you have around you, I will bet you that there is a lot of patience, forgiveness, respect, and acceptance. You might be annoyed that your partner does something, but after a while, you start to accept that, okay, this is just who they are. Do I want to leave? No, it's not big enough. So I'm going to be grateful for the things the person actually does. Okay. In some relationships, I know a lot of people say, well, now women are working, so we don't need to stick up, we don't need to tolerate this. Yeah. Also, there are a lot of women who are alone as they're older, and I'm all for it. If that's the life that you want, good for you. My thing is all about, if you're making a decision for you, good for you. That's all there is. So when it comes to the long distance relationship, especially in my practice, what I'm seeing a lot of, and these are people generally 50 and younger, it's more, I want you to do the thing that I want you to do to make me happy, without taking the other person and their needs into consideration, which is making long distance relationships really difficult. I mean, I'm from a culture, where matchmaking was the big thing, and relationships worked. Were they generally happy together all the time? No, but they had their moments and they accepted that this is what their life is. So yeah, there are things that we want to take into consideration now. And I think the most important thing is, what do I want? And in your case, both of you were not open. You were not completely open to dating someone who has not worked through some of their issues after a breakup. And for him, it was not completely open to dating someone long distance. And you both overlooked it. And we're saying that because it happened organically. And I like that you used the word organically because it allows me to use an analogy. Now let's think of a plant, right? The seed, it's shooting up. We want to give that plant space to breathe. We can't overwater it because we're going to kill it. We also can't neglect it. It's going to die. When we say that we talked all the time, we communicated all the time, it wasn't organic because we're overwatering it. We're suffocating it without realizing it. We're going to the plant and we're saying, can you grow quicker so that I can reap the benefits of this? And we don't realize that when we come in that way in a relationship and it's too much, it's coming from a place of our own brokenness. There's something that I need from this person. Organic is, yeah, we're going to talk. It's the beginning of the relationship. We'll check in with each other maybe once every few days. You're nodding your head. You're in agreement. Is this something that you noticed?
I noticed it at the end. In the beginning, we just could not put the phone down. We could not. It was just impossible. It was both of us. It was exhausting.
It's like salted caramel ice cream. Yeah, salted caramel ice cream. That's what it's like. It's like, this is just a last spoonful and then I'll put it down, but I can't.
You can't. It was like an addiction and it got exhausting. And you're absolutely right. But he got to the point that he needed this space. Immediately, I'm like, so we stopped talking. Like I'd give it a few days. Because I do whatever was asked. I'm not fighting against it, but I felt it. I'm like, why? What happened? What's going on? And it wasn't until way after that I'm like, we started these things in the beginning that were not necessary. Like, I'll be very honest. Just a quick example. I like my car rides by myself with quiet. Sometimes not even nothing to listen to. Me talking to God, talking to myself, preparing for my day. My mental drives. Mm-hmm. He took up all of my drives and me with his. Every moment we're driving to work, on the way home from work, and it was great. But there's some days that I didn't want it, and I'm sure that he didn't. But now it's like, oh, if I tell him I'll call him later, maybe he's going to think something's off, or vice versa. I noticed that only after. And you do realize, you get to a point that it's like quality over quantity. And when we were splitting up, and when he needed his space or whatever, and I was going back to my solo drives, I'm like, I miss this. I still need these moments. And there was a lot I was doing for myself, but there was also, I gave so much to it. But again, he gave the same amount, so it didn't feel like I was doing anything by myself. But yeah, it makes sense. It absolutely does make sense. You just, it's something brand new and you can't get enough of it. But that's not really exactly what it is that I would want once again. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love that feeling. It feels great. I can't wait to talk to you. Can't wait to see you. But I don't think we need to be stuck to, I'm 41 years old. I have no business being stuck to a phone all day waiting for that text message. I mean, I have things to do, and everything would kind of be secondary because I was so excited. I was like a little kid and I have big kid responsibilities. Yes. I'm not a little kid. That's the difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, you notice that. So yeah, you're absolutely right with that.
Yeah. Well, there is one way of, well, not just a way, it's understanding why was I so giddy in the beginning? Why was I going after salted caramel ice cream that much during that time? It's generally because we don't have something else that brings us that validation, the comfort. If one person is providing that thing, that validation that you need in your life, then you keep going to that person for that validation. If it's the validation that I'm the hero in your story, I'm the best thing that's ever happened to you. Oh, you really value me, and that feels good. You want to talk to me. That means I'm important and special to you, and that feels good. So I keep going after that minute after minute via text, looking for the text message, looking at their stories or Instagram post, and continue getting a little bit of validation. How do we remove that? By having the validation on your own, right? Knowing to yourself that you don't need another person to make you feel special because you just know you are. You don't need someone else to make you feel valued because you see that you're valuable in all of your relationships, not just this particular one and to this person. Being happy on your own, like you said, and I could totally relate, just these drives on my own. I love long drives and I love them alone. I remember there was a guy who was interested in me, and I was going to take a long drive to see my kids. It was like a 9-hour drive. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to call you in the car and keep you company." And I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. And he's like, "Oh, but it's such a long drive." But it was just this thought of, no, it's my think time. And it took me a while to get there because I used to do exactly what you do, like neglect my happy space, my feelings, because I wanted to be liked. And then you start to feel resentment and you don't even know it's resentment. And it builds up, and the next thing you know, you're like crashed, and it's like, okay, I need space. So how do we move from the people pleasing to honoring us? I find that taking time off, in your day, kind of like you want to go to the gym to build up a particular muscle, right? You got to do it consistently, right? So if we can take time off every day and ask, does this feel okay? Or am I doing it from a place of fear? Am I afraid that they're not going to like me? Am I afraid that, they're going to pull away or ask me questions or wonder what's going on or leave me? If it's coming from a place of fear, don't do it.
Ego and fear, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And ego is always going to be there. We want to honor it, but try to keep it quiet. Say, okay, you know what? Fear, ego, come along. You're on the ride, but I'm in control.
Definitely.
Right. When you do that, a lot of people, they're afraid that, okay, if I say, hey, I'm on a drive, let me call you when I get back, or I'll message to see if you're available when I stop. They're afraid that that person, most of the times, they're afraid that that person's going to go to somebody else. Most of the times, that's the fear. And what it really does is it attracts people. It makes people put in more effort because everyone, especially the anxious attached, is attracted to the independence and the honesty that an avoidant attached displays at the beginning of the relationship. They don't like the people pleasing. That's when we start looking at the avoidant attached as, oh, you're so indecisive and you're just a BSer, So it is that attracts people. I heard this, maybe I read it or heard someone say it, but they said, do you ever see Ferrari or one of these high-end cars advertise? Because you don't advertise value. You don't beg people to come towards you. But pretty much everyone knows about the Ferrari, right?
Absolutely.
So it's one way of attracting people, not being afraid of losing them, which is why we stay on the phone, why we overwater the plant and then suffocate it.
Definitely.
Now, there's something else I want to touch on, because I really don't want to run out of time with you. You mentioned getting into a business deal with him, and you mentioned that you did that as the relationship was ending. Now, with what we've spoken about, I want you to dissect, what do you think really happened there? Why get into a business relationship with someone when the relationship, the romantic relationship, is ending?
Well, basically from the beginning, when we started dating, it was very important for us. Like, I wanted to know his core values. We had very similar core values. And when it came to just work-wise, we work in the same industry. We work for the same brand. And we both wanted to do something like this in real estate, except that I was just a little bit further. Along the way, we do classes together, like master classes. He got his LLC. I helped him like kind of build his credit. It was just quite funny of how everything happened, because as his steps were happening is basically when these were necessary for when the business started kind of aligning. Why is a great question. And when I did it, when we both had that conversation, I think a part of it comes from we had such vulnerable and honest conversations from the very beginning. I mean, the hard ones like children, finances, what is your credit score? How are you with money? Like these difficult questions that I would avoid previously, per se, even though I haven't had bad experiences on that side in my relationships, like bad finances and all that with men. But very important things, just like, let's talk about all these things. And so we built a rapport with one another, a lot of respect. We had a lot of respect. I never had so much respect in a relationship because I just come from a lot of toxicity in the past. This was like the best one, very communicative, very respectful. And I think we took that foundation and it was easier to transfer it, minus move all of the emotions, which it seemed very easy for him to do. It was harder for me, but I jumped on board. And I'll tell you, I suffered. I suffered in the very beginning, but I just kept showing up. And it wasn't until, I'll be quite honest, it was in September, so not too long ago, one of those, I jumped out of the shower and something just clicked in me. It was like a moment of clarity. And I was like, I know why I'm here doing a business deal with him. And it was kind of like the weirdest thing. And I will tell you, I am a runner. When something ends with somebody, the minute that it ends, it could take me forever to be done. But when I'm done, I'm done. I disappear. You don't ever have to see me again. If he would have just broken up with me and I didn't do this business deal, I wouldn't have gone deeper into the layers of work that I needed to do with my abandonment and my rejection issues that I've had from my exes, from my father. I would have just disappeared. I would have said, okay, goodbye. I don't need to see you again. And I've been putting in so much work within myself that when it clicked, I'm like, this is why we're in business together. Because I needed him to be around in order for me to do this deeper work. And now we're stabilized, the business is going, but forget about that. I'm in such a better place. He has no idea about none of this. He has no idea how much I suffered or not. We don't need to discuss that. We talk business. But now I can show up. I continue showing up as my best. And now I'm like, this is what I needed to do. Because if I didn't do this work, I would have gone into another relationship. And then if he left me or if he didn't call me, then this anxiousness would have came out of me, and it would have been rooted from a lot of deeper things. So me showing up consistently as my best self with respect, putting emotions aside, it hurts. Yeah, it hurts. But you know what? I'm bigger than that. I'm much bigger than that. And I am going to make sure that this business is successful. And the fact that he still believed in me so much, I mean, his life savings he put into this, I'm going to make sure that he succeeds as well. And that's the confidence that I have now. And so, again, it's a weird, messed up, convoluted type of thing. It's very complex, but it's working.
Yeah.
It's working.
I think it's very simple. I think it's very simple. It's kind of like, I was talking to my son the other day. He plays the piano. He's been playing it since he was 2 years old, plays by ear. And he's like, but it's just easy. He didn't learn. He's now in school for learning it, but he never learned. He just listens, plays a piece. And he looks at me, he's like, Mom, it's really not that complicated. And as you're saying that it's complex, I hear him in my head, and it really isn't that complicated. So let's dissect this a little bit, because a lot of people reach out asking, how do I manage in a partnership with an ex when we're in business? Okay, first of all, when we're breaking up with someone that we care about, someone who validates us, we don't want to lose the validation. So our brain goes into every possible way of keeping that person around, right? When we come from places where we've not healed our childhood wounds and we get that validation, we want that. We want to hold on to it. It's normal. It's natural. It is the way it is. Okay. So we try to think of every possible way that we could hold on to them. It sounds like, and you've used some words here, you said, he respected and trusted you with his finances. Okay. You've been in a very short relationship, 7 to 8 months. It is unlike us when we're securely attached, when we're secure within ourselves, to trust another human being that quickly with our finances. It takes time to share that much with them. Okay. So the fact that he shared this with you, you clearly would feel valued, respected, trusted. Those are great feelings to have. And it seems like finances, business, you helped him with, his LLC. You helped to build his credit. So you guys, we talk about trauma bonding. You trauma bonded on finance. You helped him. You are the hero in his story as it relates to something that's financial. Now, romantically, it might have been shaky, but you know that this is what you're good at. You put me to sail a boat, I'll be shaky on it. But you put me to teach attachment style, that's where I shine. Okay. So we know exactly where we're good, where we add value in a person's life. And we know that, especially the avoidant attached, they focus a lot on what they can control. Being the best parent, being a good provider, like at their work. But relationships, it's kind of iffy. You don't know what humans are expecting from you. You don't know when they change their mind. So you've learned that finance, it's been proven in this relationship that this is something that you add value. He needs you for this. He's seeing your value consistently. And are you there? Because you just disappeared. Okay, you're here. Yeah. So you're seeing that you're valuable in this, and he wouldn't want to lose you. It's like being a great employee at a business place. You kind of start relaxing and feeling good about it. And so whereas in some cases, people will think that, let's say the anxious attached, they decide that, all right, I've seen over a period of time that this person loves it when I write handwritten letters. And when we're breaking up, that's the thing I'm going to do because I've learned that this is what pulls them back to me. In your case, it's business. I want you to tell me if that resonates in any way.
I never looked at it in that way, to be quite honest, but it's always good to get outside perspective, especially from someone such as yourself, because I didn't look at it that way at all. I didn't look at it in the very beginning. I was thinking, I'm like, is this a way of me just holding on to him? And when I just tell you how everything aligned, yeah, financially is really my biggest place that I can focus on. But I see exactly what you're saying. I see it.
And it's normal.
Even if I didn't think of it truly out that way, I see exactly what you're saying for sure.
It just helps to guide you into the next relationship. And as it is right here, you're able to see that, yes, it's wonderful person. You want to be in their company, but there's something deeper that might be at play here. See, the unconscious, if it's not conscious, right? It's buried in there and it's working like a puppet in our brains, like, oh, do this and do that to hold on to people. We want connection. We want to be seen. We want to be valued. And it's just to understand it so that should there be a disappointment, you know where it's coming from. I need it to be seen. And if he chooses to let go at any time, you don't take it personally. Because right now it is a personal thing for you to be valued. in this way. It's kind of, let's imagine that he meets someone else and he says, this person's helping me with the business, and I'm getting rid of my share in this Airbnb. That can be crushing because you feel cheated, you feel betrayed, neglected. Whereas with someone else, it would be if their partner should choose to go on a date with someone else. It's the same feeling we're talking about. It's I'm showing up as the hero in your life, and I'm calling you, I'm checking in on you, I care about you, I provide emotional support, and now you go off to somebody else. I feel hurt and betrayed. In your case, the relationship is with the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Share what you're thinking.
What am I thinking? I'm thinking that the work continues. The inner work continues. I am going to continue showing up as my best. And you're absolutely right. That's crossed my mind, and either side, if we both start a new relationship, on how that will look. We don't discuss any of that. But of course, if it affected the business, I've thought of that. And I have to kind of take it as it comes, because it could vary. We've spoken about expanding. We're in the process of expanding. And it's me always kind of taking the first steps. We do monthly check-ins with one another. This week we have to discuss a couple things that we had going on with the Airbnb, and we'll have good discussions. We can laugh. We can still have good conversations. How are you? How's work? Very simple. How's your dog? But it very likely, it can absolutely happen. People move on. He could have moved on by now. It's none of my business. I don't need to ask him anything on it. I just know that I need to just continue doing the best that I can, and being aware we're in a minimum of a commitment with this for 2 years. And it's very likely he could say, hey, I don't want to continue with this. No problem. Can it hurt? Absolutely. It's something that I have to take as it comes. But I feel I'm also in a place where the business for me is so important, and expanding with or without him, I'm going to continue moving forward. So if what he did and what he was meant to do was just help get my feet wet and his own feet wet, and then say, hey, I can do this by myself. We don't need to continue doing this together. Then maybe that's what it was meant to be. It's really just learning to change the type of perspective that I have, and being open to all types of possibilities. And that's it. If we can do things with respect, and that's really all that I can ask for. Because like I said, it's not always the easiest. But what I can do is just continue working on myself, healing myself, my own personal development journey. That's never ending. It's never ending. And I'm huge on personal development anyway. So learning from all that, applying it to the business, and taking it as it comes, because it's silly for me to tell you how I can feel or how I react. I'm not there yet. I'm not even fully healed just yet. I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't, but I'm in a good place where it's nice to know that I'm mature enough now that I don't need to be mean. I don't need to be passive aggressive. I've let it go. I can't force you to care for me in that sense if you don't want it. The relationship is done, but I can show up for my business. I can show up for what we have built with this foundation of the business. And that's it. That's it.
Good for
all
you.
I can do is control my actions and myself.
Good for you. There's also something that we know an avoidant will do from time to time. After a breakup, they don't quite like letting go of the relationship, and they find ways of keeping that person in their life. We know they may not be ready for a full-blown commitment with that person, but they also don't want to lose the parts of the person that they enjoyed.
If anything, to be quite honest, what was the hardest for me is how quickly he just changed. It felt like one day he loved me, the next day he was over me. So I haven't experienced that, to be quite honest. And when we set the deal with our property, he made it very clear that he doesn't go back on decisions, and that we were moving forward as just business partners. And it crushed me. It crushed me. It crushed me that he needed to just reiterate that, to say it. It almost felt like he needed to convince himself. But when he said those words, they struck me so deep. And that was in like the beginning of June. I took that and I ran with it. So I've only kept looking forward, nor have I ever said anything along the lines of anything with us. But in that particular moment when he said that, I said, okay, what I know of him is that when he makes a decision, he does stick to it. He has been about his word. So I just took it as literally, he just moved forward. He moved forward on whatever that means. He's never given me the inkling that there's still something there.
Oh, right.
He
I know.
cut me off so hard that you had no choice but just to, you put the pieces together how you can in your mind.
Mhm.
But I just really kind of had to be okay with the closure I didn't get. This is one of those situations, and having him as a business partner, I had to be okay with the closure that he didn't give me, but also show up as a good business partner and putting those emotions aside. That's kind of what I've had to do. Could it be considered some masking? Yeah. But I'm still, like I said, I'm doing what I can, and my business to me is extremely important, and the success of it is very important. And knowing that you're right, that I feel a bit responsible in the sense of these are his life work earnings that he put into it too. So I know he believes in it. So we're gonna make this a success. I'm gonna make sure that it's a success in whatever sense, however long it lasts. I just want to be the bigger person in everything. I don't have any regrets down the line. I don't have the regrets down the line.
And I think it's valid that you heard what he said and you didn't try to interpret it in a way you want to hear. You heard the fact, you moved towards the business. It is also the thing that you can control. You can't control how he feels, but the business part of it you can control. And I'm trying to point this out because you see, a lot of people misinterpret the avoidant attached person. They generally think that you guys don't have any feelings, that you just disconnect. Like, I said it's over, but they're not chasing me, so they don't care. Where I'm hearing, and I've always heard this, you respect the other person's choice and you listen to what they say, and then you adjust to self-preserve. Right? You move towards business because you could control, and you keep saying it's very important to you.
Yeah.
And you're tearing up, which is something that, avoidant people don't believe that avoidant attached persons feel. Now, I want to pinpoint something here. You said that what surprised you is that one day he was in, one day he was out, and it was just like he just switched off those feelings. You mentioned that he was also a fearful avoidant. And earlier in our conversation, you mentioned that you never told him how much you suffered, how much you struggled. So could it be possible that he also went through the same thing without sharing, just as you've kept it to yourself, just as you believe that it wasn't his burden to carry, it wasn't for him to know? He might have just done the same thing. A lot of times in these relationships, we feel exactly what the other person's feeling. You have both,
I very much believe that.
right? You've both just mastered not displaying your emotions. And the other thing you said is that you know that he's a person who, when he says that he's going to do something, he does it. And I'm going to call BS on that because I believe that some part of the conversation we talked about him saying that he would not do a long distance relationship. And yet he did. Okay?
You're good. Yeah.
So, these are things that we have to pay attention to. And I'm asking you to pay attention to it because you have to remember, too, that your brain goes into protecting yourself. So you will tell yourself that script. He said this and he means it. And now I have to focus on me because somewhere along my past, I've learned not to depend on anyone. And the fact that you said that this really hurt you when he said that, pay attention to that because that adds on to your 41 years of believing, I can't trust anyone. And if you don't start debunking that now, you're going to live a life of fear where you're always second guessing people. Right. So be careful with how things hurt you. Of course, they're supposed to hurt us to protect us. The brain will remember that. But just remember that this is a particular case. And I mean, you also said something which proves when I say that avoidants are incredibly insightful. He might have just been saying that to convince himself that this is the right thing for him to do. You also know that with an avoidant attached person, give it 3 to 5 months of detaching, and then it hits you. Then it really hits, and you start to process the information.
I think that was the part that's kind of tricky because we couldn't do that full detachment that I wish we kind of could have. We talk very minimally, especially I'm the one that sets those boundaries. They're more for myself. Whatever I can control on my own, I don't need to go to him for every phone call that's going on with the Airbnb. Whatever I can control, I do. And now we're on a monthly call, but I wish I had more time in between. But you have to do what you have to do, especially like I said with the business. Now that it's up and running, it's a little bit easier. But yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
All right. Can you share with us before I let you go, what have been some of your takeaways from this session or our discussion, and what do you plan on doing for your growth in the future?
It's so nice to get feedback from you or for me to tell you and you just share your perspective. I think you made me giggle just at the end when you said, he could say that he never goes back on a certain thing. And then you brought up that example. It's these little things that sometimes you don't catch yourself. I think it's also a great key takeaway that I got in regards to the business, how even the financial part of it could have been me trying to show up as that hero. I can still help you in this. I can guide you through this. So that definitely gives me something to think about. As far as what I'm continuing to do, it's easy for me because I do this regardless. So the work never ends, but I think it's just, I'm in this relationship with myself and I'm I'm falling more in love with myself. I got this new puppy that just like brought so much life to me after also losing a dog while the ending of my relationship. So I had a lot of grief. Mm-hmm. So I'm just like really in a place where I'm opening up my heart in all areas. And a puppy really helps you to heal, but also reminds me of being gentle with myself, of being patient, and that there's so many opportunities out there. There's so many opportunities. I'm still very open to love, but organically and it finding its way to me, just like he found his way to me, Mm-hmm. So I'm still very open, but I'm still all about healing.
It's incredible. I love that you're taking that time, and you took the 2 years earlier to work on yourself. If I may suggest, there are 2 things that I feel like you want to focus on: honoring your feelings, honoring your feelings. Even if it's a place where you're coming, like you feel like, oh, I'm just desperate for this person's attention, accept it and work through it. I think one of the mistakes we make is fight with our feelings. They're ours and they're valid. Someone reached out and they said, I really want my ex to suffer. I really want them to feel the pain I've gone through. And I don't know how to say that because it feels so wrong. Your feelings aren't wrong. It's our reaction and our responses we want to work on. It's there. The ego is there. It gets angry. It wants validation. That's the reality of who we are, but we can control how we respond and react to it. Own it. The moment you own the emotion, you start to release it, the intensity of it, right? The other one is to honor the boundaries that you have with yourself. If I say I will not date someone who just got out of a relationship, catch that the very first conversation you have with them and appreciate that, okay, I like this person, had a great conversation, but I've got to honor this thing that I have with myself. If not, your body goes through where a lifetime of doubting you. Like, oh, you say you're going to do this? Sure, you never do. So you stop trusting yourself. Okay? Like, yeah. We just dissected Mr. here. I will never get into a long distance relationship, and I still do. Suddenly it's like the brain says, wait a second, this person doesn't always mean what they're saying. And it's a normal human thing, right? As human beings, we say things and change our minds. It's how we want to be, but are we going to be that way? We don't know. Only time will tell, like you said. You don't know what's in the future. I'm very proud of you, most importantly, sharing this with us. I know vulnerability isn't big for you guys. And so thank you. I know it takes a lot of energy and strength and effort to share this, and for your reasons for doing this, to let people know of your struggle, even if you hide it from the people that truly matters. So thank you. I'd love to have you back on share how you've been growing. If that's something that you're open to, always email me and let me know. Yes,
absolutely.
Great. This was
Totally be
wonderful.
open to it.
Great.
Absolutely. This was felt like a fireside chat. So it was great.
Next time we'll do it with coffee.
Absolutely.
All righty.
Or a tea. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I'll have a tea, you have your coffee.
I'll join you either way. I swing both ways. Coffee or tea depends on my mood. All righty. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate it.
Same.